Hi guys, and welcome to the first episode of Mental Health Pit Stops with me, Hope. Now, I suppose I created this initiative to give you guys some support and further knowledge around mental health, as sometimes I think it's quite a complex area and there isn't enough support out there for you guys in the classroom and as teachers. So, in order for us to support our students in the classroom, I think it's important we take a moment to go back to basics and really understand what mental health is and what does that look like for us. So, essentially, mental health is our feelings, thoughts, emotions, and our mood. And it involves us realistically learning to adapt and navigate and overcome life's challenges. Now, for some, that is a really mammoth task. And for others, they're quite adaptable and they can do that. And I think that's really why it's so important for us to understand that mental health is such a complex area and that we are all different and we all behave and we all have different feelings to certain situations. And it's important for us to understand that that would be the same for our students. Now, if we look at it as a three statement approach, I am, I have, I can. Now, if that is a positive sort of outlook in our statements, it would look like this: I am good enough, I have friends and family that support me, and I can achieve what I set out to do. Now, when these are filled with positive thinking, we're motivated and we can be motivated in the classroom. But when this is filled with negativity, it's really hard to look past that, and that can be really consuming for a student. So it's important for you guys maybe to try this in your tutor groups and spend like 5 minutes having a base idea of what it is that your students might be going through and taking a moment to understand them. Now let's go on and look at the mental health statistics. Now you can all read off the screen, I'm sure, because we're all in a profession that, helps us to do that. And statistics are really, well, maths is not my strong point, as you will all probably be aware. But I'm going to highlight a few for you. And that is 1 in 5 young people are currently suffering with a mental health illness. And the one that really does sort of consume me is that suicide is the second leading cause of death in young people. Now, that is anyone under the age of 25. And today, I still have that strong passion that nobody should be dying via suicide. Now, how can we support our students? Okay, let's have a look at this a bit more closely. Now, sometimes it's clear when someone is going through a tough time or they're struggling, but other times it's really hard to tell. And there is no simple way to know if someone is struggling and needs some support with their mental health, because everyone, as I said, reacts differently. Some shows lots of signs, while others might not even show any at all. You might be in that classroom and the change of behaviours happen with a student. They might be talking more or being more disruptive, or they might even be just internalizing, going into themselves, and there might not even be any signs at all. So how do we do this and approach someone when they're struggling? We need to have those difficult conversations. And I think just being honest and raw and showing that connection, you cannot go wrong. Now, Mental Health First Aid England suggests this. Obviously, approach the person. Now, we want to do this in a sort of nice and calming way. You don't want to do it in front of everybody and basically make that embarrassment for that student. And as I said, some people might not even show the signs that they're experiencing it. Now, this is the important part. When you've approached them and you've asked them, are you okay? Most people will say, I'm fine. It's really important you ask twice and just say, but are you really okay? Now, if they are going to then talk to you about what is going on for them, it's important that we just listen. Now, I mean active listen, and you are consistent with how you're doing that. They don't need you to give them advice or tell them how to solve the problem. A lot of people, including adults themselves, just want you to listen. Now, this is where we communicate in a non-judgmental way. Check for understanding. Report back what you've heard, paraphrasing, validating that student. And if you don't know what to say, all you have to do is be honest, as I said, to build that connection and go, I'm really struggling what to say here right now, but just so you know, I'm here for you. And again, you're not the expert in the field. You're just providing that basic that first aid for mental health. And you signpost that young person to another profession, whether that's pastoral, and so they can deal with it, or whether that's your head of department, okay? Or if it's in safeguarding concern, obviously report that to safeguarding. And finally, let's just talk about that stigma that's attached to mental health. And even though we have more people talking about how they're feeling and their own personal struggles and their journey, we still have that stigma that is attached to mental health. People still feel that judgment or the fear of seeming weak. And most importantly, that burden that people don't want to put pressure on someone else. And it's really important that as teachers, we look at ourselves and we try and break down that stigma for our students. And the only way we can do that is by connecting and by being raw with our students and actually being honest, having that conversation and normalising mental health. And that is how we try and break down that stigma. It's you being honest with your students about how you are feeling. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you found some of that useful. And tune in for next time. Bye bye.